Something feels wrong, not dramatically wrong, not enough for anyone else to notice, just enough to feel it in your body. A shirt that technically looks good but somehow feels loud, a color that pulls attention in a way that feels unfamiliar, patterns that create tension you can't explain, like your nervous system is trying to settle, but something keeps interrupting it. Most people ignore that feeling. They call it preference, style, mood, but sometimes the things we wear are quietly affecting the way we think. And after a while, you start noticing something strange. The quieter the clothing became, the quieter your mind became too. Modern life is visually exhausting. Notifications, advertisements, packaging, logos, trends, colors, opinions, endless stimulation competing for attention every second of the day. Most people are overstimulated before they even leave the house. Then they open a closet full of decisions. What version of me am I today? What feels right? What matches? What looks good enough? What says the right thing about me? It seems small until you realize how many decisions your brain is making before your day has even started. And eventually, even getting dressed starts to feel mentally loud. That was the strange thing about Black. It didn't ask questions, it didn't create friction, it just existed quietly. There's a specific discomfort that happens when something looks right externally but feels wrong internally. That feeling of wearing something colorful or patterned and suddenly becoming hyper aware of yourself. Not because anyone said anything, but because you can feel it. The clothing starts wearing you. Some people experience this with tight clothing, some experience it with certain fabrics, some experience it with environments, lighting, clutter, noise, and some experience it with color, especially when the nervous system already feels overwhelmed. Patterns can start to feel chaotic, bright colors can feel emotionally invasive, too much visual information can feel mentally exhausting. Not everyone experiences this consciously, but the body notices. The body always notices. Wearing Black felt different immediately. Not emotionally numb, not emotionless, quiet. Like turning down background noise you didn't realize was affecting you. Black matched everything. Black simplified everything. Black removed unnecessary decisions. And over time, the simplicity became addictive because the mind starts craving environments that create less friction. One less decision, one less distraction, one less interruption between you and your own thoughts. That's the part people misunderstand. Wearing Black was never about trying to look intimidating or mysterious or fashionable. It felt like relief. There's a reason powerful people throughout history repeated clothing. Artists, architects, designers, CEOs, monks. Not because they lacked creativity, but repetition created stability. The brain burns energy constantly switching contexts, identities, and decisions. And modern culture encourages endless reinvention. Different trends, different aesthetics, different versions of yourself depending on the room. But wearing mostly one color starts removing that fragmentation. Eventually, the closet stops feeling like a performance. It becomes a system, and systems create peace. Minimalism is often misunderstood as aesthetic minimalism. White walls, expensive furniture, empty rooms. But real minimalism is emotional. It's removing what creates unnecessary friction inside your mind. Sometimes that's clutter, sometimes that's debt, sometimes that's social media, sometimes that's relationships, and sometimes it's clothing that never actually felt like you. There's something strangely emotional about donating clothes you spend money on but never wear, especially when they represent versions of yourself you thought you were supposed to become. The louder version, the trendier version, the more accepted version. But every unworn piece quietly carries weight, not because of the object itself, because of the decision attached to it. At some point, the closet stopped being about fashion and started becoming about alignment. Everything unnecessary started disappearing, clothes organized by type, only pieces that felt calm, nothing that required convincing. If something hadn't been worn in months, it left, not because of strict minimalist rules, because keeping things that never felt right started feeling emotionally exhausting. And strangely, the cleaner the environment became, the clearer the thinking became too. Less visual clutter, less emotional noise, less subconscious guilt attached to unused things. The environment started feeling like an extension of mental health. There's also a deeper exhaustion that comes from constantly trying to become someone else, forcing different aesthetics, forcing different identities, forcing transformation, even small things. Straightening naturally textured hair every day until your real hair starts feeling unfamiliar. Heavy makeup routines that slowly disconnect you from your own face. Constant modification in pursuit of some imagined version of beauty. Eventually, it becomes tiring. And there's a strange peace that comes from enhancing what already exists instead of constantly trying to escape it. Minimal makeup, natural texture, neutral tones, simple routines, not because effort is bad, because peace started feeling more valuable than performance. Most people think identity is built through addition, more expression, more personality, more uniqueness, more visible individuality. But sometimes identity becomes clearer through removal, removing the things that never truly felt aligned, removing aesthetics adopted for approval, removing distractions until something honest finally remains. That's what Black started feeling like, honesty. Not because Black is superior, because it removed enough noise to hear yourself again. Black has always carried strange cultural associations: power, elegance, death, luxury, rebellion, mystery, authority. Some people see all Black clothing and immediately assume coldness or emotional distance. Others associate it with sophistication. It's interesting how one color can trigger completely different interpretations depending on the observer. And maybe that says something important. People project meaning onto what they don't fully understand, especially when something refuses to over-explain itself. Black doesn't beg to be liked. It doesn't perform warmth. It simply exists, and that can make people uncomfortable. There are also conversations around Black clothing that go beyond psychology. Some people believe Black absorbs energy. Others believe it protects energy. Others believe clothing itself carries emotional frequency depending on intention, environment, or state of mind. Whether someone believes that literally or symbolically, there's still something interesting there, because clothing absolutely affects emotional experience, not magically, humanly. The colors surrounding you affect mood. The environment affects nervous system regulation. Textures affect comfort. Clutter affects cognition. So it's not irrational to consider the possibility that certain forms of visual simplicity can create emotional calm. Not because Black is mystical, because the mind responds to environment constantly. Eventually you realize minimalism has little to do with owning less. It has more to do with needing less from your environment in order to feel okay. Less validation, less stimulation, less performance, less explanation. And strangely, that creates more room for better things. Better thoughts, better decisions, more emotional regulation, more clarity. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but there's finally enough quiet to hear yourself think. The older you get, the more valuable peace becomes. Not excitement, not novelty, not constant reinvention. Peace. The kind that shows up in ordinary rituals. Opening a closet that doesn't overwhelm you, getting dressed without negotiating with yourself, walking through a home that doesn't mentally exhaust you, looking in a mirror and recognizing yourself immediately. That feeling is difficult to explain to people who still associate excess with identity, because once you experience it, it becomes very difficult to return to noise. So no, this was never really about fashion. Black just became the visual outcome of something deeper. A desire for less friction, less performance, less noise, less confusion between who you are and who you think you're supposed to be. And maybe that's why wearing Black feels so different. Not because Black changes who you are, because sometimes removing enough noise finally allows you to see yourself clearly.